Well, Direwolves have all but secured their place at playoffs, and now we determine, will Chiefs get one step closer to that inevitable playoffs position, or a wildcard going to find some redemption after only one win in 3 playdays? We'll find out in the next installment of APAC South. Looking at this one here though, guys, Xenox, maybe we can dive into wildcard a little bit more so first. Seems like things are starting to click a bit for them here.
So it's actually getting worse for them ever since Playday 1. So I don't know if it's clicking.
Give up.
But in fairness, I think they've still been better this stage. And I mean, they didn't really set the bar very high last year. So the expectations for wildcard, though, coming with this roster, I think were much higher. And while they got off to an amazing start in Playday 1, ultimately failed the test against IG. But they did all right, 7-5. Okay, whatever. Maybe you can give them a pass mark there. But the Elevate loss was disappointing, considering Elevate was 0-2, not looking all that great. Yeah, they bounced back and got the win over wildcard. So what does wildcard need to do now? They need to do the same thing, channel that Elevate energy. The lost 2 in a row, they need to bounce back against the Chiefs. Have they got it in them? I'm not so sure. I think there's already starting to become an over-reliance on Cairo.
Oh, I mean, comments, Guz? Thoughts there?
But you look at the stats, and Cairo is well and truly above the rest of the team, a 1.28 rating, plus 12 on the KD. I wouldn't say they're being overly reliant on wildcard for my liking, but I will say the momentum that they seemingly did snatch in the first playday hasn't probably translated as well as I would have liked to playdays 2 and 3. And now they've actually found themselves playing a little bit of catch up. Now, I know I'm maybe on the copium a little bit here. I have picked wildcard. That said, for me, they're still the underdog heading into this matchup. I'm not picking them necessarily as a favorite. I think they really need to find another gear in this matchup because they've been thereabouts in the last couple, but they have no points to show for it. And come playoffs, the top 4 going to be really, really close. And wildcard, they need to start stacking up points, pushing overtime at minimum from this point onwards.
While they are trying to reach out to the ones above them, the Chiefs, they're only 3 points ahead. A win here for wildcard would ensure, at the very least, a draw between the 2 teams for now. Although one thing is for sure, Xenox, when we look at the Chiefs, okay, yep. First playday, they come up against Direwolves, and that was a close game. There's no doubt about it. That was actually a banging matchup to kickstart our first playday of the season. However, when we started to look forward a little bit more, you know, we looked to the Fury match where they won 7-0, Renata 7-3. Have they really been tested outside of Direwolves?
Well, I mean, obviously the Fury game was not really, a test. We can agree there. But I think Renatus is a team that just went to the wrong map. I don't think they should be playing Chiefs on Bank. Most teams should not be looking to play Chiefs on Bank. That was really the biggest difference for me. I think if they had gone to a different map, the scoreline could have been closer to that of like a 7-5. And even then, Renata still got 3 rounds against the Chiefs, a team that's going to have ups and downs, being the newly promoted team. So you could maybe look at that one and say, slight test besides just the Direwolves game. But I think for the Chiefs, they don't have to do much in the regular stage. It's all about playoffs for them. They'll get there. They've already got the 6 points. Looking ahead at the rest of their schedule, Knights, Elevate, and then IG and Playday 7, which should be a very, very good game. So as long as they just get the job done against Wildcard tonight, I don't think they'll be mathematically locked in, but they'll be practically there. Also, just quickly, Rob, how many towers does Digital need?
Yeah, I was looking at that last night. I think he's in a, I don't know whether it's Digital that's expecting, but I definitely think someone in his family is expecting. There's a lot of baby clothes in the back. Who knows, actually? This might be a question for the interview. Maybe Digital is like selling babies' clothes now, because I saw a hell of a lot just being placed on the back there. There was some toys for like a toddler the other day. So I know that Digital is easily entertained, but I don't think that easily entertained. Guys, as we do look at the man, the myth, the legend, are we expecting Chiefs here to really just run all over Wildcard? I feel like there have been some questions posed around this roster.
I wouldn't say run over them. I am anticipating this matchup to be quite close, but if the Chiefs continue to fire on all cylinders, and that said, much like Wildcard, I think still have gears to find, still finding their feet with this renewed roster. They're going to be super dangerous, and the numbers back that up. You look at Bouncin, for example, the player who's sort of come back from the shadows. He's the second-rated player in the league at the moment, 1.45. Worthy's close behind, and we know he's always deadly. So Chiefs, for me, again, on paper, they are the better team heading into this matchup. I didn't pick them, but I went with wildcard for the underdog story and expecting Chiefs to take it. It won't be a dominant performance. I'm not anticipating that. It should be relatively close.
We do love an underdog story here on the desk. We'll have a look at the maps. If it's Bank, I think I'm going to lock this one in. And it is Chalet, which I would almost say is interchangeable for the Chiefs at the moment. Xenox, what do you make of this?
Yeah, not too bad. Wildcard's got decent results on Chalet, especially for a team that doesn't really have much going for them. Although I don't know, they haven't actually played it with the new lineup except Ground Zero in OCN. So if you want to look at the OCN result, obviously that does suggest that Wildcard coming into this game should be pretty happy to play on Chalet, but we know the Chiefs on Chalet are a pretty good team as well. Did lose out actually to Bliss in OCN as well. So I think both teams should be pretty happy with this. Chiefs, yes, despite that result last night in the Oceanic Nationals, are a very good Chalet team, and Wildcard obviously have shown they've done some work on it.
One of these teams won last night. One of these teams lost last night, guys. What are we making of this one? I feel like this is going to be a decently even kind of playing field.
It's an interesting little storyline that tends to develop throughout the year, right? Is a team's results locally reflective regionally? And the common excuse is teams won't try as hard in the Oceanic Nationals compared here to APAC South. But that doesn't stand up as much when you look at the Chiefs from last year. They went back to back to back locally. They also improved in APAC South. Does that mean it's a huge red flag heading into this matchup, a one-off loss against a strong Team Bliss with actual Chiefs members on it? Probably not. It is a little bit concerning, and we'll have to see how that plays out here today. But yeah, just something to keep in mind that the Chiefs did lose this map last night.
It's a little bit disappointing considering, they were coming up against a rivalry in Bliss. And for those that don't know Bliss, they are, of course, one of the teams we're looking out for in the relegations, although not to be for 2022. However, what is to be is Chalet. It's Wildcard and it's the Chiefs. It's Raven and it's Dev. Take it away.
Thanks very much, Rob. This is, to me, the match of tonight. This is the game that we have been waiting for and the game that I am eagerly anticipating. Wildcard, who are looking to rejuvenate after a tough 2021, versus Chiefs, who are looking to expand upon their amazing milestones and accolades that they achieved in 2021. But Chalet is our battlegrounds, like the guys on the desk said. One of these teams won it yesterday. One of these teams lost it, and it is probably not the teams that you would have expected.
No, probably not. But look, I think it's always interesting how much we can really read into that. I think this is probably a good move from Chiefs, to be honest. They played Chalet against Fury. That was a 7-0, very clean. Obviously, very different opponent, but they're clearly proficient on Chalet at this level. Look, Wildcard in the past also been fairly decent at Chalet. They did win it domestically last night, as been mentioned. But I feel like for Chiefs, it's like a power play on two parts. One is clearly a good map for them, but also it's a map that they can play again, and it hides more of the depth of their map pool for later in the stage.
Absolutely. Now, while Chiefs come in as the favored team, let's not forget that in Stage 3 last year, Wildcard actually got the better of Chiefs. In fact, we're seeing a funny pattern occurring. Last stage, in Stage 3 last year, these two teams played in OCN and Chiefs won. On following night, they played in APAC South and Wildcard won on Bank. So Chiefs not only trying to fight to prove that all of the statements are true, also to prove that they can get some revenge against Wildcard.
Some pretty big operator bans coming out here too, actually, Dev. I mean, a lot standard about the Flores and the Maverick in particular. Maverick fairly strong on Chalet these days, pretty critical for a lot of the attacks, but really liking the Wamai and of course the Valkyrie, but in particular that Wamai ban. Those magnets can be really crucial for some particular elements of defenses. I'm thinking in particular, if you're holding Bar Gaming and you've got a shield at kind of the top library stairs, you really do lean a lot on having a lot of different magnets placed around to hold that. So now it's really going to increase the prevalence of Jaeger. As you can see here, Kairo's brought that one in. So yeah, look, I think that's a great ban from Chiefs.
Especially because this ban has come through from Wildcard, meaning that you're going to need to use projectiles rather than those Rotero drones to clear those power positions. However, another form of power position that has managed to slip through the ban phase is Mira has managed to slip through, and wow, I mean, talk about power positions. If anything, in a lot of cases, mirror windows are far more power than deployable shields. However, a lot more limited in where you can place them. So Milo's going to place one in the piano alcove here, facing directly into the master closet with a line of sight all the way into Solarium.
Yeah, I do like that. I think it's Solarium's always a tricky one to hold, right? You can't really be in Solarium, especially with multiple players. It's certainly susceptible to a lot of things. You can get Ver Control below and Trophy. You can have a player on the window kind of pestering around. So yeah, it's not a position of comfort. So to be able to extend that back somehow with that mirror, I think is a pretty cool little play.
I love this. The 2-floor camera disposal from Boydie. He's looking for the default camera in Solarium to try and start by. This is a Solarium take for the Chiefs, and in fact they find the first pick, a very early one from Worthy on the main window, taking out Pat, who was all the way in piano.
Really good job cutting that rotate nice and early. Can always be one of those things about VOD reviews, right? You can always see that they might have a player running flex between bathroom and piano really early, and so maybe Worthy identified, hey, this is something I can cut off. Maybe just lucky on timing, but regardless, it was a good opening pick. For Wildcard though, Cairo has at least been able to trade that back, taking out Bouncer, and that is a bit of utility on the Zofia that won't be used now for Chiefs. We already talked about the necessary need for projectiles to blow certain things up with Flores off the board, but they have still got 4 frags in the pocket at least.
Those frags are going to be even more powerful than Zofia's explosives from the lifeline. Vinny's in a very important position. You can see he's got eyes onto the shield, or onto the windows of Solarium, but his biggest threat is Boydie here on the main window with the nade that goes on out, but doesn't take him down just yet.
Good from Wildcard to not kind of overextend in an attempt to kind of regain a lot more of the control. She's still very spread out as well. Ethan, a bit of a cheeky little angle below in the kitchen hatch, trying to catch a rotate from office. But already you can see here, Chiefs fairly well set up for what looks like it's actually more of a Solarium execute, which is very, very different to what you would say is the meta or the norm, and that's to really push the office side.
And what I'm really liking is this from Digital. The Kairos from Hibana has actually taken down the mirror window that looks into Solarium and forced Wildcard back. And that does enable a swing in, but Cairo, where did he find that angle from? What a shot. Boydie does make it even now, 3-on-3 with 30 seconds to go, and Wildcard falling back further and further. That might give Chiefs some ground here. 20 seconds now on the clock, and these Chief players are gonna have to go big. Boydie finds one on the entry. Vinny desperately looking for something on back, but Boydie's monstrous in this game. Ethan forcing that diffuser down on the ground, and Vinny's got to make good on it. Former teammates, perhaps, but no, Ethan gets the better of him, and the Chiefs can narrowly win that first round.
That was a great show of what this match could be. That was very back and forth, back and forth. We saw the opening pick go in favor of Chiefs, soon traded by Wildcard. And that was just generally how the round panned out. Lots of trades coming back and forth. It felt like nobody was really getting that advantage. Really well fought from Chiefs, and a big effort from Boydie on the 3K really enabled the plant to come down from Chiefs. And I think that really did help Ethan in the way he was able to kind of play out that end of round. So good stuff from Chiefs to get that first round.
It's funny, I was, while we were casting that moment just there with Ethan and Vinny, I thought, oh, former teammates. Actually, no, they're not. Funnier than that, Vinny actually replaced Ethan on Wildcard back in the day. So I might have been wrong, but for a funny reason. And, well, I mean, both very, very strong players, and Wildcard were able to retain their dominance even after losing Ethan. Vinny stepped into those shoes well. But it wasn't until a couple months after where Wildcard started to falter off. And Chiefs, of course, overtook as the #1 team in the Oceanic region. Definitely the battle of the 2020 best team in OS versus the 2021 best team in OS. Who is going to be the 2022 best team in OS? That remains to be seen.
Definitely does. At least from the APAC results, of course, it kind of feels like Chiefs at this stage, but this is a great opportunity for Wildcard to really say otherwise. And of course, we've still got a lot of this game to play out. and that first one was really close, so it's hard to say how it feels like they're separated at this point. But what I like from WILDCARD, not going to dwell on that office defense, certainly close. They can come back to it later. Rotated site now, they're going to be holding this basement site.
What is the play from Chiefs? A full roam clear, perhaps? Very powerful if you can achieve one, as there's so much vertical potential on this bomb site. You can really flush out so many positions. Step one appears to be opening this main snowmobile wall. That should be pretty simple from Digital, thanks to the nade. Worthy does take a bit of damage. He gets the better of Milo. It's a rush, in fact. Look at Chiefs. Head on in. Ethan goes down. Pat finds one. Vinny has absolutely put these guys in the coffin. Chiefs just have Worthy and Digital now. This rush, an absolute failure.
Yeah, not good. There was almost a team kill there in the middle of it as well. I think just a little hasty from Chiefs. Not sure what they saw that really called it. They could get that rush off, but it's going to be good from WILDCARD to stunt that. And for Chiefs, unfortunately, they did get that opening kill. They had the advantage, but they've really thrown that one into the wind. So on the shoulders of Worthy and Digital, we've seen them get some clutches before, in particular Worthy, but this looks like it's going to be a bit of a tough one.
Not quite it for Digital there. Now Worthy, yes, the MVP of OCN in 2021. Yes, the star player from the Chiefs, but doesn't have a lot of HP. One flash. Is he actually going to try and go for it is my question, or are they going to take the opportunity to have a bit of a chat? Looks like he will go for it. Credit to him. Got to be impressed. Doesn't have the diffuser though, so WILDCARD can camp that. That C4 was a near miss. With how low Worthy is, he's got to be extra careful. An impact or a gas babe could be the end of him. Trying to land these shots. There's the gas. He has no choice but to wait. Oh. Gets a little bit too close. Sniffs it and doesn't like what he smells.
No, apparently that did not smell good. But yeah, look, I think that was definitely over at that point. Whether you're really just trying to see if he can make something work, but could not. WILDCARD are going to be happy to be able to keep things in check there, tie up the score nice and early, not let Chiefs run away with that one. And look, I think big credit to WILDCARD. They saw that rush coming. I saw that the default cam was lit up blue, so somebody was on cams. Great job to that support player. And also they had the mirror facing it anyway. I think it was a bit of an odd call from Chiefs. It was super noticeable. WILDCARD had all the time to react. Did a great job doing so.
Yeah, that mirror window really was... it put a nail in the side for Chiefs. There was really no way you managed to pull off a rush like that when there's someone staring at you through a mirror window. You've got to assume that they had info that maybe there were a couple players off site, and they assumed it was just one or two guys on site. They thought they could blitz it. But also, you know, it's ironic, really. You mentioned the default camera. I wonder whether that was Milo, who'd been killed on the roam very early by Worthy.
Probably, yeah.
If anything, losing that player early and getting Milo to sit on that camera may have actually helped WILDCARD win the round.
It's actually a great point. You're probably right. It probably was Milo. I think at that stage they were very aware that there were multiple players over at Snowmobile because they'd been burning the utility. So look, they probably had Milo just watching that just in case. And yeah, look, I think it was just a bit of a bad call from Chiefs. Well read by WILDCARD. Regardless, progressing here, it's going to be Bar Gaming as the site now. Let's see how this one pans out. Loving the Frost play. Do see Frost picked pretty frequently, actually, on the defense of Bar Gaming.
Yeah, I mean, she's just so good with those that shield and the 3 Frost mats, forcing players to make a decision between looking down at the window as they jump in or taking a fight. On top of that, you've got the shotgun for helping make rotates, open hatches. You've also got a fantastic primary weapon in the 9mm. Looks like WILDCARD have a bit of a roam going, but they're going to be met with contest fairly soon. Digital droning out and Worthy on for the entry. He's found another opening pick every single round this map. Worthy has been the opening aggressor.
Yeah, 3 from 3 on opening kills in this game. That's actually insane. But to WILDCARD's credit, they have done a really good job being able to trade them back. They have almost lost 2 people in the process, though. Milo, OJ, both quite low from that contest. But at the end of the day, very important to have traded that. Boydie had a really impactful round 1. Sledge, of course, some really good vertical play, which helps a lot with this site once you get library control, if you get library control. So I think going for that trade was 100% worth it for Wildcard here.
Of course, being low for Milo and OJ is a bit of a threat, especially with these high damage weapons on the attacking side, which should polish off these defenders in just a single bullet or perhaps a stray grenade. Let's see how Chief can use this utility, the nades, the flashes, and everything else in their arsenal to clear these positions, particularly the one in library. I believe that is OJ. Or is it perhaps Milo? Can't quite tell from this angle. Currently sitting in library and very vulnerable.
This is a really important part of this attack too. Chiefs need to be able to clear out this library position. Otherwise, an execute is going to be pretty rough. There is too many ways to deny a plant below. Milo knows it. He needs to sit here and hold this for his life.
Oh, what a shot.
He's been able to get a pick onto Ethan as well to drop back. As really well played from Milo and Wildcard. They're going to carry through this advantage into this final execute phase. Just under 25 seconds to go.
Worthy continuing his form. He's going to have to do a whole lot more than that. 3 players left for Wildcard. And Chiefs desperately looking to find him. Bouncing on for the entry, walking in through bar. LMG in hand. Digital finds Milo. A fantastic peek from Bouncing, almost loses his life. OJ finished off by Worthy himself. And the Chiefs make that 3 versus 4. 25-second execute their own.
Very clean as well. Like, they made that look way too easy. Much easier than it should have been. Look, I think that's a really good display of some of that Chiefs coordination. You're right, they're bouncing, really whiffing on that player in the bar. I think that would have been very detrimental if he'd lost that gunfight. But at the end of the day, it's a great job from Chiefs. They were not in the greatest of position, as we kind of highlighted coming into that final part of the rounds. But they really made it work just through sheer team play and coordination, which you love to see.
And look, there's been a trend in Rainbow Six of teams replacing support or flex players with fraggers, even when that fragger then maybe perhaps contributes in a supportive fashion, or you have some role changes. But I mean, there's no doubt that that's exactly what Chiefs did, right? Like, they got rid of Fisho guy, who was their hard support player, moved Digital, who was their vert player, onto that role, and then picked up 2 fraggers, right? Like, Boydie and Bouncin both really known for being mechanically gifted. And like you mentioned, yes, Boydie might have whiffed that, but he got the kill. And if he hadn't, that round may have gone to Wildcard. It probably would have. And occasionally, 1v1 battles make or break rounds. And that's the thing that Chiefs have, I think, really tried to lean on with these players. Of course, I'm not saying the only thing they contribute is their fragging ability, but it's pretty damn nice when you can win some fights and claw back a 3 versus 4.
Yeah, I will say, I feel like the Chiefs have done a pretty good job with the way that they have rolled it out, as in, like, defined roles for this team. Digital going back to support, I think that was actually the first role he played when he joined this roster, when they were actually Elevate. Pretty sure he was on that hard support role and was always a fairly decent hard support, but having Fisho kind of enabled him to play more flex. But now it means that he can go back to hard support. Ethan is probably more of that flex player. And then, yeah, Boydie bouncing more on the fragging rolls. And then Worthy, well, Worthy just does Worthy things. And apparently that is just farm entry kills. So super curious to see whether that's going to be a continued trend here in round 4.
Funny, isn't it, Worthy? You'd think he's on the flank watch role with the Nomad, but he essentially has a license to do his role and then make plays and find kills, particularly on the entry. He is always unafraid of taking those fights. Won every single entry battle so far, every round. Looking to find another one as Wildcard feel this pressure. Dining defense, but pressure upstairs. Feeling that response from the Chiefs as they drone it out, as they start to breach a lot of these positions and enable long lines of sight to clear these Wildcard players.
Chiefs just always doing a great job, not overextending early. That was a bit of a dash there from Vinny. Thankfully, not letting Bouncin hit any of those shots. And
oh my
being
God.
able to get past again. The timing of this is absolutely insane. Bouncin certainly going to be kicking himself for not being able to catch that. And it looks like Vinny is still very keen to be able to peek the contest. And this is just, oh my Lord, what is going on?
Oh my God. Vinny and Cairo dancing with death, and Vinny gets punished for it. Let's see what Wildcard can do on this top floor though, because it looks like Chiefs may be tightening the noose. Bouncin finds Pat as well. Cairo gets 1 back, but he's got a fall back now. as Wildcard have the numbers disadvantage, and the Chiefs are looking very, very good here.
Certainly are. OJ looking away at the wrong second there. And unfortunately, Boydie, he's going to be able to get that pick. Again, Wildcard doing a really good job with these trades to keep themselves in it. Cairo is stepping up when it matters. And now this 2 versus 2, again, coming down to this like 25-second mark execute for Chiefs.
Oh, thank God Bouncin shot that Frost map, but now spotted as well. Cairo in a pivotal position. Where is Milo? He's got to get back and support his teammate. Here he is. But Cairo is the first line of defense. Milo finds Bouncin, and Wildcard might have made it work. What a huge round from Cairo. Wildcard, despite that early deficit, they managed to claw back and make even with the Chiefs.
Really good job from Cairo. Love the style spin at the end. But look, it was a really good job from Wildcard, just weathering that in general. Constantly trading. I think that's starting to be much more of a standout for me with Wildcard, is they're just doing such a good job at trading these picks out. It hasn't felt like many opportunities where Chiefs are, stacking picks together, and it feels like it's just all over for Wildcard. They're keeping themselves in it, and it's just super critical against a clean team like Chiefs. And speaking of keeping themselves in it, a 2-2 scoreline right now is pretty huge. And if Wildcard managed to break ahead at this point as they rotate to attack, I think that's a really good sign for them to be able to potentially close this game out. Feels like they're doing enough at this stage.
Oh, that's it, isn't it? Like, Wildcard really have less pressure on their shoulders on this defensive half than you'd say Chiefs would, right? Like, Chalet typically an attacker-sided map. I don't have the stats for APAC South so far, but we're in early days of the new meta and early days of the new season, so it's hard to read too much into, 2-3 play days worth of stats. Probably only a handful of maps worth. But I think that it's safe to say a map that was already fairly attacker-sided, heading into a more attacker-sided meta with repick, Wildcard would be happy with 2 rounds and a potential 3 on the cards as well.
Yeah, and also just to play into your point, we've actually only seen Chalet once before this match, and that was Chiefs against Fury, which was a 7-0. And they got the 6 rounds on their defense half, so you're right, the stats super skewed so far for the stage. Hard to read into exactly how it's looking, but yeah, look, this has been a very even affair right now. 2 rounds left for the half. Wildcard managed to break ahead. I think that's certainly really crucial for them. But they're going to go top floor site? No, what am I saying? Why did I think it was top floor?
It's Snow Wine, believe it or not.
It is,
which is previously where Chiefs went for the rush. Thankfully, they're not doing so again.
No, definitely not.
The other interesting factor here is, I know we don't want to read too much into the OCN results from last night, but Chiefs played Bliss. They lost the match, and they went 5-1 down on their attacking half. They only won a single attack against Bliss. Now, they've already done better than that here against Wildcard. And Chiefs were fairly good on their defense. They won 3 out of 5 played. So perhaps that can redeem a little bit of faith in them, especially if they can string together another 1 or 2 attack rounds here.
Could do. Right now, though, they are a little slow on this attack. Of course, they have had to do a bit of a top-down clear, and that's what they've decided to do, but already half the round gone. No pressure on site at this point. Just a bit of a win from Wildcard. They're still holding some kind of room here. You can see Cairo, you can see, I think it was Milo as well, just running around, trying to cause some havoc in through the bar, and just not enable Chiefs to be able to get that control in the lobby, which is where they're going to be able to flex some vertical play. They've got Boydie on the sledge, which they can utilize that. And now OJ with this aggressive rebro on the top floor.
But Worthy is watching for the flanks, but doesn't have a drone for this position. I think he did here, however, the C4. Clear the air jab. Milo falls back, but we still have an ever-present roamer upstairs. I believe it was OJ, and he could execute a flank at some point, but Chiefs are really starting to pressure this site.
They are. You can see they got 2 entries now into Wine Cellar, so pressure starting to be on. OJ's been able to slip through. It's going to be a very pivotal gunfight here for how this round is going to progress. And once again, we're getting a bit stalled out, but Chiefs are edging forward as we get to the execute.
Oh, it's just so good for Chiefs, isn't it? How do they manage to make it happen? Ethan down on the ground, but Vinny, he might be able to make this good. That C4 does not land, but he might be able to land some shots. The 2 anchors now have to try and retake a 2 versus 3. An unenviable position, no doubt, and a lot of long lines are side open for the attacking side. Digital doubles down. And a third attack round for the Chiefs. They are looking pretty comfy here on Chalet.
Really well played from Digital in that position as well. He, I don't know, he just got really great timing when Vinny kind of took his eyes off on the wine cellar, just rotated deeper into the corner, unpredictable position, really enabled that play to happen. That's what you want from your hard support player. He did such a good job just doing what he needed to do, getting in, getting that plant down, and then also defending it beautifully in that post plant. I think really big round from Digital. He's actually got the most plants in the league until tonight, and the fact that he's still getting plants tonight, I think he's going to continue to extend that. The other thing I just want to quickly highlight about Digital, second highest cost in the league after the first few play days, so he's really doing a great job within that role that he's been put into.
Very consistent. That's really what cost is, right? It's a measure of consistency, because you could get a kill and plant the diffuser and survive the round and in the same round, and that still wouldn't affect your cost stat. All that matters is that you're consistent. You get either one of those stats every single round. That's how you maintain a high cost. Another thing for Chiefs, I just want to comment on how they really played that flank watch game well, and that counter roam well. Like, they didn't try and, like, the traditional way of playing Siege, like back in the day, we don't see this so much anymore, but it's like you clear the whole, top floor, second floor, clear the whole map, and then you start executing, and you watch your flanks, so you know for sure there's no one upstairs. That's not what Chiefs did. They just cleared a portion of the map, and then they set up flank watch, and Worthy's role was just watching those flanks. On top of that, Bounce and scanned out some footsteps to help as well. That Jackal came and really open up the round for Chiefs as well. Shut down those wildcard roamers.
Yeah, I think I said it yesterday when Chiefs did their nice little clean Osso plant, the other play day, sorry, on Bank, where they did a nice clean Osso plant. I'm a big fan of keeping it simple, and I think that's a great way of keeping it simple. Like, to your point, they didn't do the full roam clear and then have to hold all the flanks. They just took what was needed and then kind of set up from that point, and set up well. So yeah, I think it's a really good strength of this new Chiefs roster. It seems to be a new ethos that they're approaching, in that they're not gonna try and do everything. They're just gonna do what they need to do and do it well.
In comes a nade, doesn't find it. Milo, what a great C4. Ethan goes down. Fantastic C4 up, I believe, through the hatch from Kitchen. Takes out the player on the master window. And now Chiefs really struggling with this power position that Milo has set up. Covering these windows, Vinny as well. I mean, he's playing it. He's got the DMR. He's got an Electroclaw on it as well. He's stacked in this position, and it's going to be so hard for Chiefs to clear.
And that Sawyer Gate is going to be available to be activated again sometime soon, so that burn is just really not going to be altered at all very soon. Chiefs,
Oh my God.
once again, going to have to be fighting from behind here. WILDCARD have done such a great job for the first 2 minutes of this round. Right now, it feels like it's kind of conservation for Chiefs. They're really figuring out this approach. Digital hasn't been successful, kind of clearing that mirror from Solarium. So what do they do now? Where do they start to approach this from?
Boydie went downstairs. Cairo eventually peaks and gets the better of bouncing on this window. Worthy can find one back onto Milo. But really, this should be a game of consolidating for WILDCARD. Vinny spots that Digital has made his way inside, but doesn't quite yet manage to land those shots. Still a lot of info he's managed to gather. And he knows that that player has now walked up from Solarium and onto that master doorway. Vinny's still cutting off the two players, separating them from helping each other. And Worthy goes down, but not out yet. And now finally finished off. Digital can find one, but the Yokais are not making this easy. That Fnatic skin is not going to save him from the C4. And there's OJ to wipe the floor with the final Chiefs player. And that is an even half, 3 rounds apiece.
Love to see it. We felt like this game was going to be close, and the fact that we've gone a whole half and they are still inseparable is really huge. I think it was a really good half from both teams. Very obviously, they got 3 rounds each. But I'd say in particular from WILDCARD, you know, Chiefs had a couple of moments there where it felt like they were really putting on some clean displays. WILDCARD did a good job adapting and just ensuring they never let Chiefs run away with anything. Even when it was Worthy getting 3 entry kills 3 rounds in a row, they were always doing a good job at getting trades back and just keeping themselves in those rounds.
Bomb located by attackers.
Let's see if Chiefs can impress on their defense, because if they can do what they did against Bliss yesterday, which was 3 rounds on the defense, that would be enough to push OT here, Raven. And so I'm not I'm not as concerned for Chiefs as maybe I was a couple rounds ago when we were talking about how attacker-sided this map in theory should be, because we have seen Chiefs have some good defenses. If anything, they punched above their expectation on their attacking side. And now this comes down to Wildcard and their attacking side. And funnily enough, we are going to see the attacker repick. Amaru locked in for OJ. Oh, and perhaps the rehost called as well. That could be very unfortunate. It could give Chiefs the opportunity to watch back and know that Wildcard have picked some of these operators.
I love this lineup. I tell you what, the more I look through it, it's just, it's beautiful. It's the Amaru, it's the Dokkaebi. I can't wait to see how this plays out, to be honest. But look, I think this is a really interesting part of the game, or of the match at hand. Wildcard looking to make some pretty big plays. You know, that's a pretty bold operator lineup to take for their first attack. If they manage to pull something like that off, it does quite, you know, it makes one of those statements against the Chiefs.
Absolutely. Wildcard here. A lot of potential in this roster. A lot of potential in the young gunner that they picked up, Cairo. I know that Vinny has really sung the praises of Cairo, formerly from Overt, now Ludovica in OCN. I mean, this guy was playing Oceanic Challenger League 6 months ago, right? And look at where he is now on APAC South, doing a pretty good job. Of course, I'm sure he'd be the first to admit he still has a lot to learn, but his teammates have said so many great things about him, and there's so much untapped potential there, especially bringing a lot of aggression to the table, as does OJ. OJ is a bit of a mastermind, a bit of a back-end player, support, but he has his fair share of aggressive players. Let's remember that old Rufflecopter roster and what they were capable of. In fact, OJ, former teammates of Bouncin on the other side, and Boydie.
That's true, yeah. Actually, I feel like I haven't thought about that that storyline as much. It is a good point. And no, I think OJ is probably a bit of an unsung hero on this wildcard roster at the moment. I think we spoke about it when they had their big win in Playday 1. But I think he's done a really good job so far coming in as more of the support player, and I think it's something he's not as well known for, is just the coming ability that he has and just IGL abilities. Something that's always pretty important, right, for the backbone of a team. And I think Wildcard has felt more coordinated than they have in a long time. And look, they're definitely not guaranteed a top 4 position or anything like that. It feels like they're really pushing for a top 4 position with this composition. But I think the fact that they've been able to come in and put on fairly decent performances in the first couple of playdays is a pretty big sign of the potential for the roster.
Absolutely, and I think that the role changes have really helped enable players like Milo and Vinny to flourish a lot more. Vinny's always been a star fragger, but when he has to take on a leadership role, I think that takes away somewhat from his individual performance, because that's really where he thrives, right? He's like Cairo. And I could even say, to some degree, the same for Milo. Like, Milo's a guy who's always got lots of opinions and a lot of thoughts on how Siege should be played, but he's a pretty cracked individual. So putting Pat and OJ on a team with him and allowing them to do most of the heavy lifting in terms of comms, that gives Milo the chance to focus on his own gameplay.
Definitely, and that's super critical when you think about how you do roles with teams, is you might have a really sharp player and they might also be good at IGLing, but sometimes that doesn't cross over. Some teams can do it, or some players can do it, I should say. They can IGL, they can be a fragger, and it works. But I think more often than not, it's challenging. Like, it's really hard to think about other people's positions and how your team is doing things while you're also trying to be, I don't know, an entry or just being that gunner. So you're right, I think the way that they've dispersed the roles works really well for them. And I would argue pretty much the same for Chiefs. You know, we talked about it the other day. Ethan's a pretty sharp player as well, but in this roster, he doesn't need to be. He doesn't need to go out and do star plays like we've seen in the past when he was on Wildcard. You know, he was really well known for dropping double digits super constantly, dropped a 20 bomb a couple of times, I think. He just hasn't needed to do that with Chiefs.
No, I mean, you look right now, it's an even scoreline, and while we have wiped the scoreboard in terms of the player kills, I have the scoreboard that we had before the rehost, and I mean, Ethan was going 1-5. Doesn't matter. I mean, that's not his job, right? He was playing clearing util. He was calling, and he had his fair share of impact within that role without needing to light up the kill feed. And so we're definitely seeing that as well from, well, both sides of the coin in this matchup. But as we go down, it's the Chiefs' first defensive round, and they're going to pick up bar stock. And we do once again, Raven, see these operator picks on the attacking side that you were so keen for.
Yeah, super keen how this combines. I called out the Amaru and the Dokkaebi, but even just adding in the Finka, I know Finka's a lot more of a mainstay or a standard pick these days, given her strength in the meta. But regardless, just the combination of all of them, it's a bit of an exciting concept. So look, I'm super keen to how this plays out. They've already identified here that Chiefs have a bit of presence vertically, so they're going to have to try and figure out ways to shut that down. I really wonder whether the site isn't what Wildcard we're hoping for. I'm just not sure exactly how this composition is going to play into this attack strategy.
OJ almost finds Worthy in the actually Bouncing, rather, who decides to re-peek. And, well, there you go. A former teammate rivalry right there. We love those, don't we?
We do.
Bouncing off the board early.
Pretty great start from Wildcard. Starting to look consistently clean in a lot of these rounds, which is a really great sign for them. That's a good opening pick in that first minute. And now this puts a lot of pressure on Chiefs, to be honest. Starting to have that presence around, dining in through the hallway towards bar, means there has to be that focus in around lobby, for example, and it means that it starts to separate some of the vertical players. You can see Boydie is one of those, on the Warden as well, so he can't really be stunned or smoked out.
I reckon Milo must have hacked cameras there because Boydie shot out his own team's camera.
Yep.
So Wildcard, they're going to make really good use of that Dokkaebi pick as well, not just for the logic bombs.
Love that. Certainly not something you see as common with Dokkaebi, right? It's one thing to do the logic bombs, but you don't see the hacked cameras come through as much, especially at this level. But here we go. Final minute. Wildcard still managed to have maintained their man advantage. 5 players up, 5 players completely undamaged, in fact. So it's certainly going to help them with an execute. But there are some Chiefs players in some critical positions still. In particular, Boydie hanging out around Mez and Library. It does create a bit of a pain for Wildcard to still have to deal with.
We did see Pat, however, get a little bit of a breach onto the stock wall from bottom main stairs. And that's forced all of the Chiefs players out of that stock room. In fact, Digital and Worthy doubling down behind the bar. OJ does take down Boydie, his second for the round, and Wildcard have furthered this man advantage, plus taken top floor control.
Jeez.
OJ with the triple kill. He's on fire. It's just Digital and Worthy to try and hold on, but 15 seconds doesn't leave much time for Wildcard. A desperate push in. Worthy finds one. It's all gone down the toilet, but OJ, he lands the 4K and closes the round. A good start on the attack for Wildcard.
Great start, honestly. That was beautiful from Wildcard. They just did such a good job identifying what Chiefs were doing. And even though they had a composition that, honestly, I don't think it lended itself very well to the attack that they needed to do for that site, they still made it work. You know, they didn't try and cheese something just because they had the operators. They still did such a good job at just, I don't know, taking their time. And in particular, OJ was such a solid backbone on that round. It's not like he went and did anything, you know, it wasn't like a star play. It wasn't like a highlight reel of frags. You know, he ended up with a 4K on the rounds. But at the end of the day, that's what you need from a player that's probably playing more support flex on the team.
I mean, it's not like he just, you know, walked into sight and flicked 4 different heads. No, it was consistent, right? Like his first kill was cutting off a rotation of a Roma and then just piece by piece getting closer and closer to sight, and at the end entering to clean up the cover. Very nice stuff from him. And I think that goes to show the reason you pick Amaru is not for the gadget. You don't use the gadget once. You just want the G8 with the 2x scope, man. That's all you need.
That is all you need these days. It's not wrong. But no, I think overall that was a really great start from Wildcard. You do want that on your attacks. Pushes them into the lead as well. Just a bit of pressure on Chiefs here. And in general, I think Chiefs are being very well challenged. I think this is a really good display of what Wildcard's capable of right here. I'm just curious, can they continue this? Can they continue this momentum and going toe-to-toe with Chiefs? They literally traded round for round in the first half. Chiefs Wildcard, Chiefs Wildcard, Chiefs Wildcard. So if this is consecutive round wins from Wildcard, I think that's huge.
I mean, that's what it was. The final round of the first half and the first round of the second half was the first consecutive round wins of either team so far. And yes, if they can further this lead, it would indeed be massive. Nice setup on the basement from the Chiefs in the wine cellar snowmobile garage. A lot of those Vulcan canisters around and about. And Worthy unleashed. Great to see him on the defense have a license to kill.
on the roam as well, and he's managed to take out Pat. So that is the thermite, the exothermic charges, not able to be used. Didn't quite catch how many he had used, but regardless, Kyra is here trying to make some work in and around Wine Cellar, just put some pressure back towards site. You can see Wildcard are going to have to try and adapt to that, and Chiefs do still have a lot of that map control. Worthy on the top floor, just saw Bouncing also still hanging out around the bar. So this is a bit of a squishy attack from Wildcard. They're going to have to be super careful about flanks.
Yes, it's going to be really, really scary with that map control still in the hands of Chiefs, particularly the dining hatch, which is open. And I believe Worthy was on the top floor above it. Wildcard need to be ultra cautious. As you can see, Milo is here just now, worried about the run out from Bouncing.
Bomb located by attackers.
Just over a minute to go still, and Chiefs still have these two roamers, Bouncing and Worthy, ready to deal some damage and spring when the moment lends itself. But here's Cairo. Look at that plant spot. Doesn't want to plant on the drone hole. Gets spotted from Connector. And, well, traded back. That's not so bad for Wildcard, but still a numbers disadvantage for the attacking side. There's so much time on the board, but they opted to go early. Digital finds another one. Milo trades it back, but it's just him and OJ to try and hold on. 3 players from the Chiefs now looking to try and pressure, to try and retake this bomb site, which has been completely stolen away by Wildcard. Milo can't finish that plant without taking down Worthy, but he lands the headshot, which leaves Ethan and Bouncing with a hell of a lot of work to be done.
Totally winnable here for Wildcard as well. Milo, can he get this plant down at least to force the post-plant situation? He pulls off. Ethan's been able to push deep here, and now it is all on OJ's shoulders, Dev, with 10 seconds to go.
Not likely to make this one work. No choice but to try and find the 2 kills, but Ethan doesn't overpeak, and Chiefs are going to find this first round for themselves on their defense. A fantastic retake despite that attempted rush from Wildcard.
Really like it though. I was literally about to say, I was waiting for the throwdown. I'm literally about to say, I think this is the time from Wildcard. There's no chance they're going to flush out Bouncing and Worthy. So I was like, this is the time, just push deep in sight. Try to get a plant down. And literally, before you threw Cairo, he's in sight, trying to get that plant down. Just unfortunately for him, he didn't account for the fact that somebody was playing tight con. Just got that angle onto the bomb chassis. Almost think that he should have just risked, you know, planting tighter near the drone hole. I think it's a pretty... It's not a deep drone hole, but like I think it's deep enough where it's still a pretty tight angle to get to actually be able to pick out that player from memory.
I think you're probably right. I think that drone hole, like it's a really long pipe, if that makes sense. Like you have to be really, really far back on the other side to actually see anything in blue. And a very unpredictable drone hole. So just some slight hesitation from Cairo there. But nonetheless, a great round from Wildcard, to be honest. Like with losing Pat early on, managing to get it down to a 2v2, really respectable. But the Chiefs, I mean, that's why they're as good as they are, because they can win scenarios like that, because they can adapt mid-round. They don't overextend when it's time for a retake.
So we still couldn't buck that trend, at least in the halves exclusively. We haven't had anybody go back-to-back in terms of round wins. So that's it's really showing that these teams are quite evenly matched at this stage. But no, Sight's going to progress now. Bar Gaming. Wildcard getting some early entry here in through Snowmobile. Probably looking to get some really quick early presence in and around the bottom of lobby and just ensure that there's no rotations, I guess, coming through this part of site, or part of the map, I should say.
We do have some slight operator changes from the Chiefs here. Digital bringing the Mute instead of the Frost. Ethan bringing the Smoke instead of the Aruni. So really going to be leaning in. That's still a shield, but you've got, of course, the Smoke, and likely the FMG would be my guess from Ethan. Actually, I don't know. One of either Digital or Ethan's got to run Shoddy. Not sure who would be doing it. My guess is Digital. Some serious potential on the anchors for both of those players. Cairo, oh, he might be given a free kill here. No, player on the other side, I believe Bouncing does hear him out.
Use of Jackal here as well. Obviously to shut down, or finds the Jaeger. That was so close to wallbang there from OJ. Does finally get him as well. It's actually Milo that gets the frag onto Bouncing. That was just another display of some great execution of Wildcard and team play as well. So Chiefs on the back foot. They've lost that opening pick.
And a lot of great Jackal usage in this match from both teams as well. Hunting down those roamers, watching those flanks. WILDCARD have taken a lot of map control here, dining in their hands very firmly. OJ fully out of drones, though. That's unfortunate. He's a player that would really want to be droning quite a lot. WILDCARD overall only have 4 left. Really going to be relying, funnily enough, on Cairo. He's the only one with both his drones still up and running.
Definitely make it a bit interesting, but at least OJ does have the Inox of Jackal, so you know it's not quite as good as droning, but it can give you some info. You don't have to always scan those footprints. It can show you some pathings. You can use that to kind of make some educated guesses and where players have progressed to. But I think the big thing here is time. Still 5 up for WILDCARD.
Oh,
Facts. They've been able to give themselves a bigger man advantage, and now they're coming into the final 30 seconds to try and make this execute happen.
Woody does a good job on site. OJ trades Ethan. Now Milo wants to go deep. 25 seconds, but Boydie holding on. He is finally traded. It is all on Worthy, the best player that Australia or New Zealand have to offer. And he will have to retake a 1v3. The Chiefs sit back in silence and wait for their star player to show up. Good pre-fires, good game sense, but only 30 seconds to make it work. A flash makes him turn his head and try a different angle. Peeking on inside, he can't find the first. WILDCARD continue the trend, Raven. Back and forth this game has been, but WILDCARD find themselves 1 round off match point.
And that's the thing, right, Dev? You can only do it so much until we're really at the business end of the match here, and that's exactly where we are. We're getting very close to somebody being on match point, and that is WILDCARD. After a really great round, once again attacking bar games, they seem to be really proficient at attacking this site.
And now, in the backseat once again, Chiefs will take their tactical timeout. Trying to stave off match point, deciding where do we defend next up. Snowmobile Wine is still locked, and that's the only bomb site that they have managed to defend successfully in this match. Remember yesterday I was saying they won 3 defenses against Bliss. They managed bar, office, and kitchen in a row before Bliss were able to come back. They haven't been so good here on the defense against WILDCARD.
So this is some serious pressure on the Chiefs right here. They're facing not only a bit of a fight to bring this one back, but I think what's really important is if WILDCARD does finally change that trend of trading rounds, not only do they have a 2-round deficit, but actually they will stop Chiefs from even being able to get the regulation amount of points, right? If Chiefs were to bring this one back, they have to force it to OT. Our first ever OT still, we're chasing that one. So look, I think this is a really strong position for WILDCARD to be in at this time of the match.
This will be a huge round for WILDCARD. The Chiefs, though, going kitchen dining. We haven't seen this one yet from them. A couple of repicks coming out as well. Pat getting rid of that thermite. We've got a Nomad. I mean, that was already there. OJ on the sledge. I think that's the main one here that's notable. You need that vertical potential when you take control of Master and you want to start flushing out the positions on site. You don't sacrifice the nades when you move off the Yana because you've still got that sledge. But a player I'm really keenly watching is Bouncin. I mean, he has been a menace, like always, within the Oceanic region. He's been such a highlight player, and he was picked up because of his insane mechanics, his aggression, his opening kill potential. He's only found 1 opening kill this match, and since that rehost, he hasn't found a single kill whatsoever.
That's just big credit to WILDCARD, I'd say, unless he's just having a bit of a shocker. But the stats don't lie to really back you up here. He's the 2nd highest rated player in APAC South until this game, Dev. Also has the 2nd highest KD and the 2nd highest entry stat until this game. So you're right, seeing him be so quiet and be shut down, it's either massive credit to WILDCARD or unfortunately he's having a bit of a shocker. But regardless, his impact has not been seen. So Chiefs has struggled just a tad here. And also just an interesting little point from Guz in our chat as well. In terms of the playoff window, the playoff potential, it's pretty important for WILDCARD to get a regulation win here because they have struggled the last couple of play days. So to pull out 3 points certainly helps their chances for playoffs.
Yeah, if Chiefs can win this, it punches up their probability of playoffs to 88%. WILDCARD, if they lose this in regulate... Oh, Cairo. Thankfully, the finger boost comes through, but unfortunately, it's looking a bit grim for Wildcard with Worthy taking down Milo. And well, that's another opening kill for Worthy. This dude is actually cracked. Like, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opening kills out of 10 rounds we've had so far.
It's actually insane because until this game, he'd only had 4 from the first 3 playdays. So he's already doubled that in just this one. And speaking of double, he's got a double kill for the round. This entire round is feeling like a bit of a write-off for Wildcard, unfortunately. They've got a minute to go to try and turn this around. But yeah, not a lot has gone their way.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Very, very difficult push now for Wildcard. Chiefs can just consolidate, fall back, simplify their defense with this mount advantage. Still so much map control. Just look at it. Worthy's still upstairs. Ethan also the ability to look through these smokes thanks to the smart glasses from Warden. Boydie as well, the ability to look through smokes and see highlighted players thanks to those evil eyes. Although it is taken out, Wildcard now goes potentially for an execute into Kitchen. Not every day we get to see Kitchen be the front side of this execute. And this is going to have to be a bit of a retake. This is an awkward one for Chiefs, but Worthy has a fantastic angle above. Pat's forcing down this diffuser. There is no way that Wildcard wins this. They're coming back from a 3 versus 5, but they've got that diffuser down. Ethan can make it a 5v2 on for the retake. We've seen Chiefs win retakes before. Cairo shut down. Pat in the 1 versus 5. He's been spotted. He can't do it. It ends up as a flawless round for the Chiefs, despite that plan from Wildcard.
It was a really good round for Chiefs, and unfortunately not the greatest for Wildcard. But credit to Wildcard to actually put themselves in a chance to get the plant down and even be in post plant in the first place when it was a 3 versus 5 scenario. That shows a lot about their resilience. But to Chiefs' credit, you called it. It was a very awkward retake, a bit of a strange situation to be in, but did a great job with it. And once again, they've answered back. They're at 5-5. This is such a huge round. Obviously, the winner of this one goes to match point. They lock in minimum OT, minimum 1 point, and it, of course, stops the other team from being able to get the juicy 3 points in regulation. So round 11, it's a spicy one.
It really does feel like at this juncture, these teams are so tightly contested. And it is so exciting, isn't it, to think that Wildcard are back and ready to contest, ready to fight for those, well, I'm not even going to say those top spots in the league, but fight for the crown of OCE. I mean, we are here in APAC South, right? This is not just the Oceanic League, but these two teams have been the reigning champions of OCE in the last 2 years. It was Wildcard in 2019, 2020, and it was Chiefs, of course, in 2021. And I mean, I'm so curious as to who's going to be able to claim that title, or if we're perhaps not going to have a single team so dominant in the coming year.
Certainly right. And look, I think this is great to see Wildcard, like you said, being able to be up there and contest themselves for top positions. Honestly, after some of the form that we'd seen from them in APAC South, I felt like top 4 was super viable for Wildcard now, which last year you definitely wouldn't have caught me saying. So it feels nice to be able to say that again. But they've got to win some of these big games. They, of course, unfortunately, choked a very close game to IG a couple of play days ago. And now they face this one. Chiefs, they are also a top team. They can pull out the victory here. There's some kind of redemption on that.
Good drone work from Wildcard, sussing out the site here on Master Office. Milo on the double window as well can cut off so much, but vulnerable to C4s from below. Boydie downstairs still has that C4 in pocket, and there are pre-opened holes. A C4 that Wildcard knows oh too well. No mirror windows for Ethan, but he has a very similar setup to Wildcard, but with a shield instead of mirror window. Bouncing does take down Milo though. Another really good, impactful opening pick for the Chiefs.
Pretty huge there. See whether they can continue this one. Ethan just doing a great job here, holding off the barrage from Solarium. But I see players in, the outlines are in. OJ gets the pick onto Ethan. Wildcard again doing a really good job not getting too stalled out. That C4 misses, but Wildcard are in some really good positioning here.
That said, Boydie has managed to find one. Worthy now finished off on site. Pat and OJ have the objective all to themselves. And the retake must come through. Digital and Boydie, no C4s on either of them. They're just going to have to rely on their pure fragging potential. A whole minute left. Digital goes down to OJ. He's found a triple, looking for the quadruple. As Boydie tries to move on forward, he can take down OJ. Pat versus Boydie, and the man gets it. 2 rounds in a row, breaking the momentum. The Chiefs have found match points.
Unreal. I seriously thought that Wildcard had done such a good job to bring that back. OJ in particular, he had a massive round there. I think it was a triple from him, but Boydie, love him in those 1v2 situations. Always an awkward one as well on Chalet, trying to find that last defender around that position in Master and like between Office, and I don't know, there's just something about it that always gets a bit awkward, but regardless, well played from Boydie, well played from Chiefs, and they are the ones that move forward to match point here.
A Wildcard are the ones who will take their tactical pause. Guaranteed overtime at best for Wildcard, which means 3 points is off the cards. The Chiefs still have that before them. And man, that would be so huge for them. Currently struggling to battle for number 1 on the standing, sitting behind Direwolves at the moment, with Direwolves dominating win earlier today. That puts them on 12 points. Chiefs down on 6. They have a lot of catching up to be done. Currently also tied are Chiefs with Knights and Invictus. Wildcard no longer have the ability to go and catch up with any of those teams. Currently sitting on 3 points, and the best they could get out of this match is just 2. Immediately, Chiefs winning that round has shot down Wildcard's probability of making playoffs by 20%.
Yeah, it's not great. That's certainly not a great stat for Wildcard, but look, I think regardless, they've got to feel happy to some extent that they are here competing with the best teams in APAC South, like actually competing as opposed to how things were for them previously. But it definitely comes to a point where they need to win these close games against the top teams. They could have, look, it's not done yet, but they could have been looking at a regulation win against IG and against Chiefs today, and they could be looking in a top 2 position with Direwolves. But unfortunately, their closing ability has been lacking. So this is another big test. Can they at least push this to OT? Look, if they get an overtime win, that helps at some kind of recovery in a way.
Wildcards still have a chance to push overtime. Thatcher's EMP and Thermite's Exothermic name a more iconic duo. What was that? An impact grenade through the drone hole, perhaps? Very, very cheeky. Indeed it was. Ethan can't land the second one, but wow, that was quite something. And that is a lot of hard breach denied.
Bomb located by attackers.
Another bit of a win of the mini games there from Chiefs. First minute, bit of action. You can see quite a lot of pressure on the wine side now from Wildcard. In fact, they've got 4 players, actually 5 players really all on this side of the map. So it's going to be this hard wine cellar push. But again, they've got a lot of wall denial to deal with on this side. I just heard some ex-Kairos pellets go off at least. And Bouncin also trying to be the devil on West Main Stairs. If he finds the picks...
Bouncin!
Oh,
how does he manage to pull that off? Wildcard left sleeping. Bouncing once again. No longer can Wildcard shut the man down. Pat finally gets revenge, but Worthy is here, and he could do the exact same damn thing as his teammate. Worthy lands the first one. Pat looking for the trade, but it's all over for Wildcard. Chiefs, they made a massive comeback on their defensive side, and now Wildcard just have OJ left. A 1 versus 4 for the game. Match point down, and Digital wins it for the Chiefs. A 7-5 victory against their Oceanic rivals. Sighs of relief. And the Chiefs can punch 3 points onto the scoreboard.
and look, if you had told me they were going to come away from this game with 3 points after how that first half and even some of the second half progressed, I didn't think it was going to happen. I was set that it was either going to be OT victory to Chiefs or maybe even regulation win for Wildcard. But no, Chiefs did such a great job bunkering in, adapting to how Wildcard played, and just clutching those big moments that they needed to clutch to be able to save some of those rounds. Got to go back to that Boydie 1v2 situation to even get them to that match point in the first place. It was absolutely huge.
And really, if we had seen back and forth, we would have definitely hit overtime. But it was that one round with the 1v2 clutch from Boydie that changed the game completely. I've got to say as well, Chiefs really stepped up with bouncing there. What a phenomenal performance from him. What a fantastic win for the Chiefs under their belt. Let's toss it back to the desk to break that game down.